Well, a very good morning, everyone. I'm going to try and be as loud as possible. Hopefully, I'm audible. Okay. So thank you again for coming this morning. Really appreciate your time and effort to come over here. We are presenting to you the first comprehensive study on indoor air quality. I think there's been a lot of awareness, and thanks to the media, there's been a lot of push in the media, various media, about outdoor air pollution, especially the harmful effects of PM 2.5. However, what our goal with this study was to try and understand what is the impact of indoor air pollution, what actually happens inside our homes, and how is that pollution impacting us. So before we go into the study, I'm going to break this up into three parts. The agenda perspective, we're going to do a quick introduction on indoor air pollutants because it's slightly different from our understanding of the world in terms of outdoor air pollutants. We're going to then present the study and the findings. I'm going to give you a very brief overview of BreatheEasy, and then we'll open it up for question and answers. So I asked this question sitting over here, but I'm going to ask the others who didn't. How many of us over here drink absolutely unfiltered water? Anybody? No? Everybody drinks filtered water? And we all drink what? 3, 4, 5 liters of water at most, right? Now, how many of you know how many liters of air you breathe every day? You know the answer now. Not for you. But anybody else, would you like to guess how many liters of air you breathe in one day? 13,000. Aapko bhi pata hai. 13,000 liters of air is what one adult breathes in one day. How many of you are very particular that, oh, it's not filtered air, I'm not going to breathe? We can't do that, right? You can't. You can't stop breathing for more than a minute or 2 or 3 at most. You can stay without water for a few hours, maybe even a few days if it has to be, but you can't live without air for a short period of time also. So what is in water we are very careful about. Let's drink filtered water. Let's make sure what's going into our body is clean water. But what about the air that's going into our body? 13,000 liters of it is going in, and it is constantly polluting our body. So very quickly, I like to classify pollution in 3 buckets. The first bucket is particulate pollution. We know a lot about it, PM 2.5, you can call it RSPM, which is respirable suspended particulate matter. And then the second bucket is gaseous pollution. You have ozone, volatile organic compounds, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide, which is in the air, which is actually harming us all the time. You want to minimize the exposure of these first 2 buckets, the particulate matter and the gaseous pollution. You want to minimize your exposure as much as possible. Why? Because it's like smoking cigarettes. A lot of people say, oh, if I stay in an environment like this, which is so clean, then when I go out, you have to go out in Delhi, you can't stay in closed environments always. My immunity will come down and I'll fall sick when I go out. Not true. That's where the third bucket comes in, microbiological pollutants. In water, we drink RO water or filtered water, we remove all the bacteria. And then if we drink tap water, we have a chance of falling sick because our immunity has come down, because we eliminated the bacteria. In air, if we live in a sterile environment with low bacteria, then our immunity comes down. But the first 2 buckets have nothing to do with immunity. The first 2 buckets are PM 2.5 and harmful gases. The more that goes into your system, the worse it is. I'll ask you a simple question. What is better, 2 cigarettes or 20? 2 is better? Ideally 0, but yeah, if I had to choose between 2 and 20, it's 2. Because the amount of pollution that will go into my body with 2 is 1/10 of what will go in by 20. Same thing, if I can live in a clean environment for 80% of my life, because 80% to 90% of my life I live indoors. If I can have clean air indoors, 80% less pollution will go into my lungs, which means my lungs will be cleaner and healthier. I'll be able to live a healthier life. So very important, I wanted to talk about that issue of immunity, because a lot of people in India ask me that question कि अगर हम घर के अंदर साफ हवा में रहेंगे, बाहर जाएंगे, तब तो हम बीमार पड़ जाएंगे, तो इससे अच्छा है कि जैसा है वैसे ही रहने दो. Wrong, the wrong way of thinking. We need to fix that thinking. So what does air pollution do to our system? Most people, कई लोगों को लगता है कि हमारा जो प्रदूषण है वो खाली खांसी, जुकाम या फेफड़ों या लंग्स को इम्पैक्ट करता है. But that is not true. It actually impacts the entire human body. This is a chart which shows that it impacts the nervous system, it impacts the respiratory system, the cardiovascular system, the urinary system, and the reproductive system. The entire human body gets impacted because of an impact of air pollution. Now, the gases that I'm talking about and the particles that I'm talking about, the two harmful things. Now, very easy visualization. Particles are physical particles in the air that are invisible. Gases are in the air. What happens is these physical particles absorb the gases, and the toxicity of these particles becomes even higher. And then when we breathe in the particles, some of them are so small in size that they go first deep into our lungs and then into our bloodstream. And some of them don't even have to go through all the way to the lungs. They go directly into the bloodstream from the ophthalmic nerve in our nostrils. Directly across, they are so small. And that toxic gas-filled particle goes into our blood and gets to all the organs of the body and causes problems. Just last week, I think there was an article which said that studies have shown that PM 2.5 has been found on the other side of the placenta of an unborn child. It is impacting even unborn children now. I know an area in Chembur in Mumbai where they have that whole landfill problem and they're burning the waste in that landfill. You should do a study on the number of miscarriages in that particular area. I know at least 8 people in that area who have had miscarriages in the last 4 to 5 years. And they have called us saying, we have a problem, we live here, we are not able to have children. We've heard that by putting something in the house, it improves the air quality and it will help us improve our life and perhaps have children. Can you help us? Can you imagine something like that? But this is real. So it's impacting the whole body, not just the lungs and the nose. Where does this come from? This is pretty simple. It comes from automobile exhaust, diesel generators, construction fine dust, waste and trash burning is a major source, brick kiln, and the two that are not shown in the chart are, of course, our stubble burning, the parali burning that happens about to start in the next few weeks, and the biomass fuel burning and domestic heating are big sources of these pollutants. This is a chart that scares some people, but I'm going to really quickly talk about it. This is a chart of the United States which shows mortality from PM 2.5, that small particle in the US. Blue is good, red is bad, right? High deaths per kilometer per year, low number of deaths per square kilometer per year. You can see in the US also we have pink and a bunch of red dots. Let's look at India. We were talking earlier that, oh, this is just a Delhi problem. No, it's not. It's not just a Delhi problem. This is a problem which starts on the top, finishes at the bottom, starts on the left and finishes on the right. The entire country is affected with pollution. I used to think that rural areas will have clean air, and I used to go to holidays to smaller villages and towns till I realized that the cooking that happens in those villages is happening on the old gobar gas or wood or something like that, and the smoke from that is filling that entire village. And we are living in one little area of that village and we are breathing that all night long, much worse than even my house where I know it's perfect air quality. So we stopped going to holidays to those areas where we know that the air is really bad. And we spend 90% of our time indoors, right? And indoors is considered your home, you sleep there, your office, your car, you may be traveling for an hour, 2 hours, up and down, wherever you go. It's a closed, enclosed space. You may go out to a restaurant, it's indoors. You may go to the gym, it's indoors. Everywhere we are, it's typically indoors. We don't sit outside all the time. We may spend 10%, we may go for a morning walk, we may go out and sit outside in the park for a bit, but 90% of our time, we are indoors. Next slide, warning for the faint of heart. This is a real picture shared by Dr. Trehan and corroborated. I was with Dr. Arvind Kumar of Gangaram Hospital, and he showed me 2 lungs in jars, and he said, this is what a healthy lung should look like. A 16-year-old from the mountains of Himalayas, and then he showed me the lungs of a 16-year-old from Delhi, non-smoker. And this is what it looks like. That's a filter for our body, the lungs. This is a filter from the machine. When this gets as black as that, I can stop the machine, open it, remove the filter, change it, done. It protects my lungs. But when that gets black like that, I cannot open it, take out the lung, get a new lung very easily. Very, very difficult to do that, right? So this is the reality, non-smokers' lungs, just by virtue of living here. A 5-year-old child, because they were born in Delhi, has smoked more than 20,000 cigarettes in 5 years. That is the real number. They don't have a choice. A smoker has a choice. They're doing it to themselves because they want to smoke. But a child does not have a choice. Non-smokers don't have a choice, but they have lungs of smokers. So I was at the World Economic Forum in Davos, and I tell people I bring Davos to Delhi because we've been working on this. What you see, this greenhouse, you're breathing perhaps some of the best air that you can in all of Delhi sitting right over here. And we did this building 28 years ago. It's been certified to be one of the healthiest buildings of Delhi by the Central Pollution Control Board. And then about 6 years ago, I said, we've done some amazing work over here. Why don't we take the learnings from here and help other people breathe clean air? It's a need of the hour. This is before WHO said Delhi is the world's most polluted city. This is before President Barack Obama came, and it was a big hue and cry that he's lost 3 hours of his life because he spent 4 hours of his life because he spent 3 days in Delhi. This is before all of that. Everybody said, I'm crazy. ये तो पागल हो गया है, इसको कुछ काम धंधा करना नहीं है पूरी जिंदगी, इसीलिए ये हवा बेचने में शुरू कर दिया है. Literally, I had people tell me that. I had taken sabbatical for 1 year and they said he's lost his mind and he wants to sell air, which is, there's no problem, it's invisible, and that's why he's doing this so that he doesn't have to work for the rest of his life. Little did I know that I'll be so busy in a few years that it's been absolutely crazy. And the science has been so fascinating because I get people like Dr. Trehan, leading cardiologists of India, call me when they have patients with pulmonary fibrosis. He calls me, the man who doesn't sit with a patient for more than 30 seconds because he's so busy. He sits with me for an hour and a half, understands the problem of air pollution, and then he says, I have a patient with pulmonary fibrosis. She will not survive Diwali this year. I need you to go to her house and fix the air quality for her house. And when you do the solution for that house, and the mother calls me 1 week after Diwali and gets angry with me, and what does she say? Barun, where were you 3 years ago? Why didn't I find you 3 years ago when I came here with my daughter? We suffered for 3 years. Her condition is at an all-time good right now because of your solution. Why didn't I find you 3 years ago? That was her response. Even today, I get goosebumps when I say that story because I know I'm making a difference in people's lives, and hence I come into work every morning. Weekends, I'm waiting for Monday morning, that how quickly will Monday morning come so I can go back to work and make a difference. That's how I feel about this. I was in Davos, and people talk about, oh, it's cold, and because of that, there's inversion, and that's why the readings in Delhi are bad. 0 micrograms per cubic meter in Davos, and it was outside. You can see the snow at the back, the picture that I took on the balcony of the place I was staying. 0. On the same time in Delhi, the AQI was 222, and PM 2.5 was 172 micrograms, a reading that we took off the CPCB readings in Delhi. So 0 versus 172. The safe level for PM 2.5 is 15 micrograms. WHO says it should be less than 12 micrograms for your annual average exposure. 172. It's a class 1 carcinogen, cancer producing, and we are breathing 172. Anything over 12 is bad. 0 is what it should be. So we think that, oh, our target is 12 or our target is 50 or 60 as per the outdoor standards. Sorry, it's not. Our target is 0. And I'll talk about one more slide, this one, which why our target should be 0 and we should try and bring it as close to 0 and not even 15 or 20, which is the upper limit. This is a very important slide and it may be difficult to understand, but I'll take a minute to explain this one. The 4 charts over here talk about the risk rate from cardiovascular ischemic heart disease, cardiovascular stroke, lower respiratory disease, and lung disease. The x-axis over here measures your exposure to PM 2.5. So 0 to 125. So 0 micrograms per cubic meter, 125. Delhi on that last one was 173. It's beyond this chart. So let's not even talk about that for now. We are just talking 0 to 125, and on the y-axis we have the risk rate. What is the level of risk when you're breathing these pollutants in? Now you see over here on 3 out of the 4 charts, it is very steep initially and then it flattens out, correct? What does that mean? That from 0 to 10 micrograms, your exposure, if it is 10, your risk rate from a health perspective goes up. Your problem probability goes up. And after 15 or 20, it starts to flatten. So whether your exposure is 125 or 25, the difference is only so much. But from 25 to 0, the difference is so much. And that it flattens even more when you go past all the way to 5,000, which is a smoker's lungs. So whether you're at 5,000 or 200, which is Delhi, or whether you're at 25, not much difference. Unless and until you can get it down to between the 0 and 10 levels. And that's the true for 3 out of the 4 charts. The next pollutant that I want to talk about, which I think is a very, very important pollutant from an indoor perspective, and the study hinges on the next 2 pollutants that we'll talk about, is carbon dioxide. We all breathe in oxygen, we've learned this in biology, and we all breathe out carbon dioxide. Now what happens in a closed room, let's take a bedroom. I sleep in a normal bedroom, 2 people sleep in that room, we have a split air conditioner, we turn it on, we close all the windows and doors. What do you think would be the carbon dioxide level in my bedroom? Any guesses? Outside carbon dioxide level is 400 parts per million, global average is 407. A Harvard study says that anything over 800 parts per million is bad for us. It starts impacting our cognitive ability. What do you think would be the CO2 level in my bedroom? Indoor study, that's what we came up with. Any guesses? In my bedroom, before I found the solution, the CO2 levels were between 2,000 and 3,000 parts per million. So how many of us wake up feeling super fresh in the morning? Do you feel the moment you wake up charged and ready to go, fresh? You wake up lethargic, tired, 10 more minutes of sleep, half an hour more sleep. Why? Because we are breathing stale air all night long. The CO2 levels are elevated. Nobody knows about this stuff. Nobody talks about this. We only talk about the PM 2.5. And marketing companies will market the air purifier saying, indoor air is 10 times worse than outdoor air. PM 2.5, which is bad outside, is not 10 times worse indoors. It's high, we need to fix it, but it's not 10 times. But they scare you using that line to buy an air purifier when that is actually not the truth. What is 10 times worse inside is CO2 and TVOCs, the next pollutant we'll talk about. And those air purifiers do nothing with those 2 pollutants. They don't even attack those 2 pollutants. So understanding the problem scientifically was so important for us that we said, let's do this study, understand it, and then we found a solution. And now we are able to fix all the pollutants inside a home. So CO2 has a huge impact on office productivity as well in terms of basic strategy or basic activities. If it's less than 600 parts per million, 600 to 800, your activity levels, your brain power goes up. And you know what? One of the studies we've done in offices, we found the worst CO2 level was in the boardroom. You have 12 people sitting in a boardroom making the biggest decisions for an organization, and you have the highest CO2 level where the brain doesn't work as well. That's why you should have the freshest air so that they can make good decisions for a company, but you typically end up having the worst air. That's what we've studied for offices. That's a different study, but that's what we've done in offices. And the Harvard Center for Health and Environment study says that when lowered carbon dioxide levels were combined with lower pollutants in the building, cognitive scores were 101% higher than conventional buildings. 101% higher cognitive scores. It doesn't mean that by bringing fresh air, you're going to become smarter than what you can be. But what it means is that by breathing fresh air, you can reach your maximum potential. Think of what that means for school children who want admission in a better college. By breathing fresh air at night for my child, not only does it have a health implication on my child and I don't have to give him antibiotics anymore, but what if he gets admission in a better college because of that? Is it worth the investment then? Small, but big in result. Will go up by 1% by the end of the day. Whereas in other buildings, it will go down by 1% by the end of the day. When your range is 94 to 100, that's a 6% range, a 2% swing from morning to evening is huge. Huge swing, and especially when SpO2 is directly linked with brain function. So that was a study that we did over 6 months for all the occupants in the building. And then that's when I was struggling with the solution for the home. I said, what do we do? And then we said, let's do the study. The next one is the volatile organic compounds, VOCs, total volatile organic compounds, TVOCs. Where does this come from? This is mostly found indoors. Everything that you see over here can potentially be a source for TVOCs. This carpet I was talking about is a huge source for TVOCs. When we installed this, there was a huge smell, and the TVOC sensor over here that we use for testing started giving readings off the chart. But after we put all the plants, they absorbed all the VOCs and the readings came down. Where does these come from? The paint. paint, have you ever walked into a freshly painted room? I would say 9 in 10 homes probably use Goodnight because we don't want dengue that happens in our city. So what do? But that will produce in the long run, it will give you cancer. It may protect you from dengue this season, but in the long run, it's going to give us cancer. You have all your cleaning liquids, you have deodorants that you use, you have nail polish remover. All of these things produce volatile organic compounds. And the fumes of that, as we breathe in, are carcinogenic to the human body, and those are all found indoors. Nobody talks about that when they sell an air purifier. They might say TVOCs, but what removes TVOCs is a good quality carbon filter with impregnated potassium permanganate. That's what removes gases and TVOCs. You take out a carbon filter from any of those machines that you get on the market. It's a 20-gram carbon filter. This is the carbon filter over here, which is a 2.5 kilogram impregnated with potassium permanganate filter. So what this is capable of doing, no other machine comes even close. So for my health, for my children, am I ready to invest? I am. But as people understand the problem, they will also start to get ready to invest. So TVOCs typically come during the construction phase because construction materials have that. Then you flush out the building. But then in the occupancy phase, it goes up again because people bring in, I'll put deodorant, I'll put perfume, I'll put something else, I'll put nail polish, I'll try and do nail polish remover in the office. All of that is going to create TVOCs. So I'm going to pass it on to my colleague Preeti, who will go deep into the study, and then I'll come back and we'll close it and open it up for questions.
To human body. So different global agencies, and as per the popular belief, and a lot of marketing agencies say that indoor air pollution is 5 times or 10 times worse than the outdoor air pollution. This is a broad generalization to make. Indoor air pollution is a broad spectrum. Does this generalization hold equal relevance for all the pollutants that we have seen in the previous slides? We are about to find that out. And this study was aimed at finding out how bad the indoor air quality is versus the outdoor air. So for the purpose of this study, we selected 3 pollutants that we have just discussed in the previous slides: PM 2.5, carbon dioxide, and TVOCs. These are the most common and most harmful indoor air pollutants. So multiple samples were taken inside each house and one sample just outside the house for comparative purposes. We have selected more than 400 houses across Delhi NCR, irrespective of the area where they are located. To represent the demographics in a better way, we tried to choose as many colonies as possible, and we touched nearly 200 plus large and small residential colonies in Delhi for this study. So to understand the study better, it was important to understand the parameters that we have chosen for testing. So I believe that Barun has touched upon all these 3 pollutants and has explained in great detail that what these pollutants can do to your health and from where they are emitted. So these are some of the high quality EPA approved real-time monitoring equipment that we have used for the testing of air quality. These monitors are here for display. You can maybe have a look at it after the session gets over. So basically, this testing used a standard which is focused on indoor environmental quality. This is world's first standard that focuses on indoor environmental quality and has air quality for indoors as it's one of its main components. The selection of this standard was very important for us because this standard aims to compare the Indian conditions with a complementing Indian standard for indoor air quality. So the standard says that PM 2.5 should never exceed 15 micrograms per cubic meter. I would like to reiterate what Barun just said. The expectation and the recommendation is to have 0 exposure of PM 2.5. But this is the upper limit. The 15 should never be crossed for PM 2.5. Then when we talk about carbon dioxide, the global average is about 407 ppm. And we consider 400 ppm as in the Indian subcontinent. So we take plus 350 ppm, that is 750 ppm for indoors as our upper limit. For total volatile organic compounds, the exposure should never exceed 200 micrograms per cubic meter. So now let's get to the real part, the data. For PM 2.5, the most surprising statistics was that the levels indoors for PM 2.5 were marginally lower than what we can see outdoors. And most of the marketing companies for air purifiers that majorly focus on PM 2.5 claim otherwise. We categorize the data that we obtained for PM 2.5 concentration in homes into two categories: homes with air purification and homes without air purification. The basis for this categorization was because the air purifiers are the major component that affect PM 2.5 in an indoor environment. You can very well see the results over here that the homes with air purification are still, the average reading is still above the permissible limit that is set by the ISHRAE standard. Then in homes without air purification, as just explained by Barun, that the levels are nearly equal or marginally lesser than the outdoor air pollution. So of course now you can easily conclude that the statement that indoor air has nearly 5 or 10 times worse pollution than outdoor air stands absolutely false in the case of PM 2.5. However, the next two slides that I'm going to show are going to be your eye-openers. Now let's go to the main essence of the study, the other two pollutants, carbon dioxide and TVOCs. So carbon dioxide exposure is inevitable. You're exhaling it out every second of your life. And that must never exceed 750 ppm in an enclosed environment where you're sitting and working for prolonged hours or you're spending a lot of your time. So the homes that we have done this study for 400 homes in the continuous environment where people were, around 4 to 5 people were spending their time in that home. It was a typical home like all of ours. And we divided the data into 3 categories: occupied homes with air purification with doors and windows closed, occupied homes without air purifications with their doors and windows closed, and occupied homes without air purification with their doors and windows open. The doors and windows are indicative of the ventilation in the house. The doors and windows, we mostly, what we do usually is we open the doors and windows once in a while in the home and usually keep it shut during summertime, turn on the air conditioning. So the selection of this particular category only because to analyze how the ventilation is affecting the levels of CO2 that we have obtained in the homes with the study. So basically you can easily see that homes with air purification and without air purification with doors and windows closed are nearly equal. So it can be easily concluded that air purification or running an air conditioning, a heating system, has no relation with the levels of carbon dioxide exposure that you have inside your homes. However, with occupied homes without air purification and doors and windows open, the levels of carbon dioxide was still a little bit above the permissible limit. It was still above what the outdoor air limit was, but it was under the permissible limits. Again, you know, it is very critical to balance both these components. If you open your doors and windows, your PM 2.5 is tend to increase. Because in the upcoming months, in the next 6 months, the PM 2.5 average would be around 250 to 350 micrograms per cubic meter in the outdoor air. And you cannot keep your doors and windows open. So this was one very, very eye-opening finding that we found in the occupied homes with air purification and without air purification with the doors and windows closed. So moving on to the results for TVOCs. Again, a lot of companies claim that we have carbon filters, we have, you can put this kind of filter, that kind of filter for managing TVOCs. But homes with air purification and without air purification, there was not a lot of difference in TVOCs reading as well. The average reading was nearly 3 to 5 times the permissible limit that is defined by the standard. So, look, and we have seen the results, what the average we have received. In fact, one of the key findings that we have seen in homes that rigorously use mosquito repellents and air fresheners, the so-called air fresheners and air sprays for the fragrance in the house, have seen the TVOCs level exceed even 1000 micrograms per cubic meter. Again, so it can be easily concluded that for PM 2.5, this statement stands completely false. However, for carbon dioxide and for TVOCs, the indoor air is actually 5 to 10 times worse than outdoor air, which is completely ignored, and these are two main very, very health risk hazards for human health. Carbon dioxide is a big pollutant and it has gone ignored for so many years. Now the focus is shifting. The Harvard study, as mentioned by Barun, has focused on the cognitive ability linkage of carbon dioxide with your decision making. It is very important. So after this study, we understood that it was very important to know the kind of air that you're breathing inside your home. It is very important to analyze what you're inhaling, what is going inside your body. and also to remediate the quality of air that you're exposed to, be it in your homes or your offices. Again, I would like to reiterate the same question that Barun has asked. That we are very particular about the 3 to 5 liters of water that we are drinking. What about the 13,000 liters of air that you're breathing in? It's such a pressing thought, so I would like to now hand it over to Barun for further.
On a daily basis, how we feel when we wake up in the morning has a huge impact. And both of these two pollutants, whether you have an air purifier or you don't, if you sleep with your windows closed, those are going to be very high. It's a seesaw problem. I open my windows, my PM 2.5 goes up, class 1 carcinogen, cancer producing. I close my windows, my CO2 and VOCs go up. VOC is a class 1 carcinogen, cancer producing. तो आदमी जाए तो कहाँ जाए? एक तरफ खाई, एक तरफ कुआं. What do I do? And that was a problem that I struggled with for 5 years for a home. In this building, what you see, we were able to fix the problem with the help of 7,000 natural plants which are in this building and a very sophisticated mechanical filtration system for a large building. And Mr. Mittal, who's the owner and founder of this building, who came up with this entire system for this building, is right here. You're free to interact with him after this, the one who did the TED talk. But I came to him and I said, you've done some amazing work here. What about the home? What do we do for the home? And initially we only found solutions to fix the PM 2.5 problem, and that also not completely. You saw in the test result, very quickly I'll go back, PM 2.5 even with an air purifier was above 15. 15 is not my target, it's my limit. So even with an air purifier, the readings were 20, 25, 30 in my room. And I'm like, I want to get it to 0. What do I do? No solution, and I struggled with it for 5 years till we actually found a solution. So BreatheEasy, just a quick overview. We are India's first full-service indoor air quality solution provider. We are pioneers in the indoor air quality space, having figured out how to fix the problem for our own building for over 25 years now, where you're sitting. And in 2013, we decided to convert that knowledge and passion into a business. The business model, the base of the business is based on scientific testing, where we use some of the best equipment in the world, where we go out and we test and we scientifically measure what is the problem. Then we design the solution and we implement and execute, and for that there are two divisions. One is the portable solutions division, where we have products like this, which are portable machines that can be installed fairly easily. And then we have the centralized solutions business, where we do projects for large buildings just like this. We've installed greenhouses and large mechanical filtration systems in large buildings, malls, offices, schools. The top international schools of Delhi today have all been done by us. So some of the largest projects on indoor air quality in the country today have been done by BreatheEasy. So some of our clients, as you can see, starting from Select City Walk to Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to GIZ, UNICEF, all UN bodies we've worked for, Volvo, United States Embassy, American Embassy School, the French Embassy, a lot of large clients today have come to us saying, you understand this problem scientifically, you look at it holistically, you're not just someone who's going to put a box out there and leave us in the lurch. So they come to us because they trust us. To me, the word that I like to use over here is trust. We look at the problem holistically and we say, just like Intel inside, we say, breathe easy, trust inside. So my tagline that I like to tell people is, I bring Davos to Delhi. And this is actually the crux of how the study started and why we thought it was important. After I put an air purifier in the room, this was what my reading was. This is CO2 inside my bedroom. Overnight from 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. you can see it went to 2,400 parts per million. Window closed, AC on, split AC, door closed, air purifier running. PM 2.5 came down to 10, 15, 20. Opened the window in the morning, CO2 came down to 600. Open the window, PM 2.5 starts to go up. Seesaw, how do I fix the problem? And that's when I figured it out. Now, In my bedroom all night long, CO2 between 500 and 600 parts per million. This is a live dashboard which gives me the reading on a continuous basis. PM 2.5, 0 at 2 and 3, 1 microgram per cubic meter at 145. So my exposure now is coming close to 0 for PM 2.5. VOC is close to 0. I don't have that chart here. But CO2, it is exactly where I want it to be, between 500 and 600 parts per million, not the 2400, 2500 that was happening earlier. I told you the example of my wife. She used to get a migraine every 20 days. Now in the last year and a half since we've had this, 5 or 6 migraine attacks in a year and a half versus 1 every 20 days. I'm going to finish with one real live story of another example in my own family, my son. We moved from the US to India when he was 1.5 years old. And very quickly, you know, he's very outdoorsy, just like me. I used to run marathons living in the US. So we'd go to Lodi Garden for a run, and he would go with me holding my hand as a 1.5-year-old. People used to look at me and say, I'm torturing the child. How dare I bring him out to Lodi Garden? I said, no, he pulls my finger and takes me. He would pull his grandfather's finger and take him as well. So he would go to Lodi Garden, and within a few months, he started developing wheezing. And we were very worried. What do we do? And we then decided to put that air purifier. In about 3 months, his wheezing reduced. He started going to school and he started getting nosebleeds. Every 2 to 3 weeks, we would get a call from school saying, he's getting nosebleeds, they are not stopping, aap isko school se please ghar le jao. We would go to school in the middle of the day, get him home, take him to a doctor. The doctor would say, well, we'll have to get surgery done, but we'll have to wait till he's 16 years old. For now, give him antibiotics. As a 3-year-old, till he was 8, we kept giving him antibiotics every year. It would get worse in the winters, slightly better, and he would live with a congestion for 5-6 years. Completely blocked nose, completely blocked sinuses, and he was breathing from his mouth all the time. That's when we found this solution, and we said, let's put it in. We put it in. 1 month after that, all the congestion clears, no more nosebleeds for the last 1.5 years. There's a price for this, but what happened to him is priceless. I know exactly what happened to him. I know why it happened. I take him to the doctor now and they say, whatever you're doing, keep doing, he's fine. You can stop the antibiotics. Would I pay that money to stop his antibiotics any day of the week? This is a real problem that most people aren't even aware of. So first step is awareness. Second step is solutions. And eventually, I know it's an expensive solution today. And I know a lot of people may not be able to afford it today. But at some point in the future, I think there'll be new technologies, but only when people start to understand the problem will there be innovation in that space. And we need to understand that problem better. PM 2.5 outside everyone is aware of, but still people think कि बाहर problem है, घर के अंदर आ जाओ, कमरा बंद कर लो, AC चालू कर लो, problem gone. Sorry, it doesn't go away. It's still there. PM 2.5 still stays inside. Everything still stays inside. And we need to do something because it actually has a huge impact on our health. So thank you again.